Welcome back to Gold Derby. I'm Christopher Rosen. I'm so pleased to be joined by Hacks production designer Rob Tokarz, a two-time Emmy Award nominee who was nominated again this year for Outstanding Production Design for a Narrative Program Half Hour for the comedy series, which is also a Best Comedy Series nominee. Rob, first of all, congratulations on the nomination. Once again, how did it
Thank
feel
you.
when you found out you were nominated for
Uh,
this great show?
it's super exciting. It was a super exciting morning, and it's been a super exciting past few weeks. So it's really been great.
Who's the first person you call when you get the nomination?
First person. Well, I think I heard it in the middle of the room while we were getting our son ready for preschool. So I just kind of called out to my wife.
That's great.
Needless to say, we were a little late that day.
Yeah, that's what I think the school would be okay with that. I think
They were.
it's a great show. It's one of my favorite shows, and I felt like this was maybe the best season of this great show yet. I working on it just overall, I guess, for this third season. Did you feel like that as well? That maybe it had even leveled up from the level it had been previously?
Being able to have started watching the show in season one as a fan, and then to be able to join it season two to see the arc of how the show progressed, it felt special. It probably felt a little more special given the challenges that we had to complete the season. So that kind of adds a certain amount of gravitas. Sometimes I find the more challenges, the better the product. But I know it felt really special, and I'd agree. I think every season is great, but I think third is really everyone kind of hits their mark character wise. I think the story was really strong.
It was fantastic. You're nominated. The episode you're nominated for this year is Yes and, which
Mm-hmm.
is one of my faves. Really a great one. And also, I think the episode Jean Smart submitted for her nomination as well. I believe that's what she picked. So that's really great. I guess just overall, when you got this episode, which is in different locations, obviously, and a lot of a lot
Yeah.
going on in this episode. I guess first, like, what was your general thoughts and like approach to what you were going to try to do?
So one of the challenges with the way that we had this season is with the way that we shoot is we shoot it in blocks. So that means that we'll have sets kind of span across the schedule, coupled with the fact that we had three stoppages in the 14 months it took us to finish the season. I think the last month of shooting, we hadn't completed every scene for every episode. So everything was kind of chunked apart. It wasn't until we started seeing the cuts toward the end of the season that you kind of go through this process of like, oh yeah, that's right. That scene is in that episode and this scene is in that episode. And you kind of forget how they come together. So as much as you'd like to create an arc over the course of the episode, sometimes you have to focus on the arcs within the episode and trust that they work together. And I think it did. I really liked that episode. I think it was a really nice example of just a lot of hacks spaces, art direction wise. I think it was just a nice variety. And performances were fantastic, but they're
Yeah, no,
consistently
it's a
great.
fantastic. It is everything. It's a fantastic episode. It really is. So you have the main or the A plot, I guess, is Jean on the college campus, right? And you get to
Mm-hmm.
explore the college campus, and I love that you get to see her in these or Deborah, not but Jean. You know what I mean. And
Yeah.
you get to see her in these spaces like that you're not necessarily expecting, like the improv room, right? And like the frat party and all these different things. So I guess like yeah, like and just the campus in general. I guess like so. How did you like? Where was that and like how did you kind of like make that work basically?
So, sure. A lot of the campus stuff was shot at USC. We used their quad. We used a number of their buildings. The improv room is one of their black box theaters. And then the frat house, we scouted a number of actual frat houses, or at least frat house adjacent homes that were near the campus. And we ended up in West Adams at this really beautiful, well preserved craftsman house. Which is where the party takes place and where the kitchen is, where she talks about the three B's of wine and all that. But what was fun is it's hard to move a crew upstairs on a tight schedule. So we were tasked with building the frat house bedroom. And so that bedroom was kind of my nod to my life in school, in that when I was in grad school and I'd gotten, living with roommates, I got a room. I wanted to paint it a color. I wanted to make a bold choice for the color. And I picked the color. And once I finished painting, I said, oh no, this was the wrong color to paint this room, but I was too poor to repaint it. So the color of the frat house bedroom where she has the phone call from Jimmy, that color was my nod to the frat president. I think as we decided it was his room. He chose that purple. And then once it was on the walls, he just decided like, no, this was not a good choice. But a lot of the paraphernalia felt very familiar to me too. Jen Lucart, my set decorator, just did a fantastic job, and she always does a fantastic job in those kind of spaces that require that extra layer.
Yeah, it's a fantastic. It looks like, again, like it looks like, I mean, it looks, I guess the goal is to make it look like real and like
Yeah.
effortless, right? Like that kind of thing. And that's what it looks like. And all those bespoke touches, I think, really make it sing, it's like really
Yeah.
great.
The other challenging one was the dining hall. I remember that caused a good amount of consternation trying to find the right thing that matched the schedule. So much of television design edges into design management because you are dealing with a schedule that's shifting and how things pair. And we ended up at the Wilshire Ebell for that, which kind of had, I think we kept calling it like a Hogwarts vibe in the way that that dining hall is. And then we had to bring in everything because it's a big wide open room, and to make it look like a campus dining hall. And even on the day you kind of look at it, you're like, all that matters is what's in the frame. Let's let Adam do his magic, and you know what he did. He makes our stuff look so much better.
It looks great. Yeah. Again, TV magic. You would never
Yeah,
know. It looks just like a real thing. I was like, this is great. It's a huge space. It looks like really big. And like you said, like Hogwarts vibe. I think that's really great.
yeah,
You also get, so in the other part of the episode is Marcus in Palm Springs, right? With the House of
mm-hmm.
Vance activation. Just fantastic. And again, feels like every little detail in that House of Vance is amazing. And like all these different, everything about that just felt like really cool. And I guess, again, like
Yeah.
really realistic to the story and to the universe of the show. So I guess, like, how did that kind of like come together for you?
Yeah, so that's one of those sets where you read it on the page, you kind of start the conversation, and you go, "I'm not sure what this is." Jen famously tells, well, famous among us, tells a story about how she had to Google what a house of activation was, and I think we all did. But it was hard to nail it down at first, and then once we were able to kind of pair through all the things that Deborah Vance has had on QVC over the years, look into the objects that we were able to create to it. There was just a lot of stuff that she's touched. And one of the big directives that we got is not that everything is Deborah Vance branded, it's that it's like her favorite things. So that she can anoint an Afghan, and that's the Deborah Vance approved Afghan. So once we found that house, which had a really cool Palm Springs vibe, the pool at the back, then we filled the space with those objects and tried to create that excitement around Deborah Vance's merchandise. And then also the party vibe that we had outside. We created a couple of Instagram walls to kind of elevate that vibe. But I think once we dressed it and looked at it, we're like, okay, now we get it. Sometimes it doesn't happen until you tie it all together right at the end, and then it ended up working out.
For those items, right? Like, I guess, like, how is that like a lot of like you guys being like, what would Deborah like, picking like the Afghan, like all those different, like the Deborah Vance, the branded stuff that's like, and then, like you said, like the non-branded stuff that's just things that she likes. Is that really like just like trying to think like Deborah Vance in that world? Like, is that how it works?
That's most of the time how we approach every set that she's in, is thinking like Deborah Vance, especially things when it's related to her mansion or the tour bus last season. Um, it's a lot of trying to filter everything through her. She's kind of our style guide for everything. Yeah,
That's amazing.
It was a nice collaboration too with costumes, because costumes had reminded us that in season one she had a what do they call it, a Vantan. It was the whatever they were, the caftans that were in the background. So,
oh my God, it's amazing. It's like so detailed and like really great. And then I guess for you, then when you're creating these spaces, how much of it is like the actors get to just live, like it has, like, I guess for you then, as does it, you want the actors just to not even think that they're on a set, right? Like, is the idea to have them feel like they're on like in like this house that like just is as real to them as possible, so they can just really kind of like become the characters, I guess.
yeah, absolutely. That's really what we hope to do, is when we create a set, it needs to jive with that character. And we hope to create as livable and realistic of spaces that they would actually be able to move through. One of our favorite things is when we do a new set that's for Jean, that's for Deborah Vance, and we get to hear Jean's incredible laugh when she loves it. She's pretty effusive with praise when she walks onto a set. That's really exciting for her. So it's kind of the goal.
That's awesome. Win. Yeah, you want to hear Gene laugh. That's really good.
Yes.
The other, I guess that plot ends with Marcus at a club or bar, right, where he has this great conversation with Tim Bagley, I believe, who's the guest star. Yeah. It was fantastic as well on the show. I guess like it felt like that could have taken place probably. I mean, in a bar, like I don't know, why was that like the right space for it? And then well, how did you kind of like figure that out based on what they had in the script for that?
Right. So that space, I'm trying to remember, that space was chosen. I believe it was chosen based on the proximity to the House of Activation set, and it was the closest bar. The bar itself, it wasn't a dive bar. It was just kind of a very Valley. I think we were in Reseda kind of bar in a strip mall. The front door is actually where it takes the outside phone call, where we put in dumpsters and everything that look like the back of the bar. And we decked out that bar with so much rainbow and pride and just beautiful Palm Springs-ness um, that we don't necessarily see, but I think it's there, and it helps elevate the background and helps elevate the moment in that you don't necessarily see it on camera, but I think the actors do feel it. So it's just changing a space into another space. That's what we
Yeah,
do.
no, I mean, it's great. It feels like I said, I think you get the, like, again, it feels like a real place that just exists there, right? You know what I mean? Like, that's how
Yeah.
watching it, even like you said, like just having that depth of field, I guess, or just knowing that they're in a place that like feels like real, with for lack of a better word, is really really cool. This, I mean, this is like we said, like I thought this was a great season overall. This episode is fantastic. Was there for you, like, what was the biggest challenge for you, or was it like you know, like for what was the most exciting thing you got to do this season?
Oh man, it's been. I mean, it's just been an exciting season. What's great about it is that we just get to work with some really great text. I mean, Jen, Paul, Lucia, they give us some really great framework for what we get to design around. The biggest challenge was probably the fact that we had 9 scripts in our head over the course of 14 months and had to keep it all straight. That's really the challenge, is that schedule and the shutdowns that we had, to make sure that we maintain the continuity that we kind of established in the chunks of time that we were shooting. I mean, the most exciting thing to work on is, I'd say it's just the show in general. It's just really such a joy to work on. It's such a great crew. I have a really great team supporting me. It's really just a great place to go to work.
It must be so fun to get to say you work on Hacks, right? I would imagine, just in real life.
It really is.
Right?
It's
Yeah.
because I'm totally a fan of the show. It's really just exciting to work on shows that you really enjoy watching. I mean,
Yeah.
it's really fun.
You mentioned like the challenge there, like the logistics, like you said, like between the strikes and Gene's health, obviously there was like a
Mm-hmm.
very long trail to get this show on
Yeah.
the air for this season. How do you keep when with those kind of breaks and knowing that like, oh, we're gonna have to shut down because of the strikes or whatever? How do you keep everything straight in this to make sure the continuity is upheld, and how to keep the sets
Yeah.
like and the stuff you've built like in working condition, I guess too.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's a lot of notes. It's just making sure I take very good notes. And Janine Ringer, my art director, and Victoria Tam, my assistant art director, they're really good at remembering absolutely everything. So if there's something I'm missing, they surely caught it. So that's a huge support too.
That's great. And obviously the show will come back for season 4, which I'm super psyched by. I can't imagine you would tease anything, but I guess have you started like thinking about season 4 and what's going to happen then?
I'm in the offices. I started in the office this week. We're starting it up. I'm alone on the 4th floor, but everyone's kind of starting next Monday, so it's pretty exciting.
That's great. Can't wait. I cannot wait to see season 4. The end of the 3rd season is so great. Hacks Productions production designer Rob Tokarz, a 2-time Emmy Award nominee, and a nominee this year again for outstanding production design for a narrative program, half hour for Hacks. Rob, congratulations again, and thank you so much for
Thank
doing
you
it.
so much. That was so
Thanks.
fun. Thank you so much.
Thanks.